Welcome to the start of the day. I'm Ann Hunter and I'm with DISQO. I am the Vice President of Product Marketing and longtime participant in the IAB. I was thinking about it earlier and realized that the first time that I got involved with the IAB was back when we were trying to set standards for ad sizes, and the 468 by 60 was big and revolutionary. So a longtime fan, participant, and member of this organization. Today, we are going to be talking about the changes that are happening in the market, particularly as they relate to data accessibility and advertising impact. And we're going to focus that discussion on zero-party data and what zero-party data can do to help brands understand the full funnel impact of their campaign. And with that, let me get my presentation going for you, and we'll walk through this together. So again, the focus really is on zero-party data this morning. Not everyone knows what zero-party data actually is. And we want to walk through an explanation of the concept even at the start. But why are we doing this? Why focus on zero-party data? Why focus on ad impact? Ultimately, it's because brands are at a crossroads. Brands are facing some new challenges that even 2 years ago were not there. Clearly, challenges related to the pandemic in terms of how consumers are engaged with media. And also, we are having a little bit of feedback from some folks who aren't mute. So if you could put yourself on mute, that would be great. And technical challenges, right? Technical challenges are part of our day this morning. Technical challenges are part of every day. And they're important to address for brands because they're coming really fast and making a big impact in how branding itself is done. So at this crossroads, brands have to make some decisions. And we're going to talk through some of the decisions that are open and available to brands and some of the different approaches, pros and cons, and outcomes of those decisions when it comes to their data strategy and their relationship with people, their consumers. The biggest things that are impacting marketers today are the data challenges around identifier loss. Platforms are locking down consumer data. They've made a decision that they don't want consumers' data who've given it to a platform to sort of go off everywhere. The traditional identifiers of cookies and increasingly mobile IDs, and sometimes even IP addresses, are being deprecated. And consumers are standing up and they are saying, we have concerns about the use of our data. So the traditional identifiers are being lost. You've seen this in every single article in every trade magazine recently. But the impacts of that are also really important. What people are doing to actually address these changes, such as trying to replace cookies with crazy technical gymnastics and create new UIDs that have a variety of different approaches, it is causing siloed insights. So different locations being able to deliver different types of data, no more standards of data. You think back to the IAB and putting out creative standards really helped the industry be able to plan and buy across a wide range of locations. Here we've got data reporting, campaign reporting coming from a variety of different places. We recently put out a report on the use of cross-platform data. We call it the kaleidoscope of cross-platform data. And what we found is that consumers are using, 62% of consumers are using multiple platforms every month. So getting campaign reporting, if a campaign runs platform by platform, getting campaign reporting in all separate reports with different metrics and separate different methodologies is really challenging to understand on an apples to apples basis what's working. There's also gaps because of this deprecation of identifiers. And ultimately, brands are increasingly finding that the brand impact and the sales impact are becoming hard to measure. What we see in that case is that branding itself is at risk. The data shows, the most academic and most respected data in our space at this time is from Binet and Fields. They have done phenomenal research on what they call the long and short impacts of advertising. The short-term impacts, immediate actions and sales, and the long-term impacts for building a brand. And what they have determined, and this great quote from Les Binet, is that brand building is the main driver of long-term brand preference, long-term sales growth, long-term growth in revenue and profits. So brand building is critical to delivering revenue results for your companies. But the current techniques and tools used to allow you to view the brand impact of campaigns and allow you to assess the brand impact of campaigns on an apples to apples basis across multiple platforms, multiple locations, multiple channels is being eroded. And that has a major impact on how campaigns are run, optimized, and ultimately a major impact in their ability to own a market share through a strong brand, thus owning revenue for the company. So let me give you some examples of what's been happening. In the beginning, back in the 90s, when someone saw an ad, they would see the ad, they'd click on the ad, they'd go to the website, and maybe they'd purchase. And all of that was really trackable. You didn't need cookies or anything because you just looked at the URL and saw, the URL string move along nicely. And that's great because there was some ability to look at the impact of this very nascent medium at the time, this digital, how is digital going to work compared to television and magazines and newspapers. It gave digital a way to say, hey, we can show some of our value. And that allowed more and more budgets to move to digital where people were actually spending more of their time. Then cookies came into view. And that opened up a wide opportunity to show that digital wasn't just a direct response medium. Digital could also drive brand value. That happened because people could see an ad, and then with cookies, they could be surveyed and they could be asked about their awareness of the ad. They could be asked about whether they love the brand, whether they're more favorable. And that allowed digital to show that not only is it a medium for driving direct response, but it's a medium that can grow brands. When people didn't click on an ad, we could also use cookies to track site visitation. Again, showing that the ad had a priming effect and it had an ability to actually deliver value even if there wasn't a direct click. This ushered in an explosion of money to digital. Once digital was able to show that it could be involved in the brand process itself, it was possible for marketers to develop brand and demand campaigns that both drove revenue short-term, but also grew the brand long-term. And there are so many brands that came out of this era that used digital really successfully. I think of Netflix as actually one of the biggest examples here to have great branding and great results. If you remember, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing a red Netflix ad. And it also was great for driving signups. For many brands that are younger, new direct-to-consumer brands, this approach has been really strong, being able to both measure and optimize the impact of brands on sales, but also ensure that there is growth for the brand value itself over time. For traditional brands that have already great market share and awareness, this has allowed them to ensure that they're keeping pace with the upstarts and newcomers in their categories, and to make sure that that awareness is being maintained as they go through digital transformation. But it doesn't tell the whole story. Even with these tools that really push digital forward in a lot of ways to driving the revenue that drives the internet, there's still some things missing. When someone sees an ad, marketers only know how it impacts their brand. What wasn't available was the opportunity to see if ads are impacting the category overall. For example, if someone sees an ad and it's for a new ice cream brand, if someone goes to search and they just search ice cream, red container, oh, I can't remember the brand name, you won't know that. It won't tell whether it made them think of ice cream and then they went and typed in an existing brand and went even to a competitive website. It doesn't tell us whether the ads actually drove people to review sites. It doesn't tell whether it actually drove offline purchases. So there's still, even with today's tools, so much impact that digital delivers in terms of the brand story that can't be seen. And this competitive impact is increasingly important. Understanding whether your campaigns are having an impact on your competition and on the category is critical for optimizing those campaigns for long-term value. Short-term, you can optimize toward the most immediate sale, but knowing which audience members in your campaigns are actually more likely to convert from a competitive brand can give you a strategic advantage that boosts your ability to gain market share. So having these missing pieces is also really critical. Unfortunately, where we're going with the loss of cookies and mobile IDs and maybe even IPs is that we are going back to the Seinfeld era of measurement. We are going back to losing the ability to see all of it and having tenuous and complex workarounds, so that the only thing that's really easy, clear, and consistent is back to that 90s view, click, visit, purchase method. That takes brands in the wrong direction. And it hurts branding and the ability of digital to prove its value, especially in a time when this is where people are spending their time. Consumers have moved here, but if we lose the ability to be able to tell the story of how brands influence and attract those consumers, we put ourselves backwards. So ultimately, brands now have a choice. They've got a couple ways to go forward, and there are three paths. One, they can replicate the tracking of cookies and mobile IDs with more pervasive identifiers. They can develop complex workarounds, technological workarounds that embed identifiers deeper into consumers' lifestyles, into consumers' digital lives, that are harder for them to get rid of. You can go into your browser and clear your cookies. Well, they could come up with something that makes it really hard for consumers to have a say in how they're measured. And that might return some of the measurement capabilities. It's also not what consumers are asking for. But brands could make that choice. We don't care what consumers think. We want to move forward and develop really these invasive, pervasive identifiers. The other option is to sort of give up. Be like, all right, let's go back to direct response ad measurement. Guess we can't get it all. We'll have to just sort of make do with what we've got. There was actually a recent study in eMarketer that said almost a third of brands are at this place. They just sort of assume it's not possible. And they've sort of said, well, we'll just work with what we've got. But we posit that there's an alternate approach. There's a zero-party data approach that can give brands the opportunity to actually be respectful of consumers' wishes and get rich, actionable data about campaign impact. So the question is, what is zero-party data? I want to stop for a second. And first of all, thanks everyone for being here. Hi, if you missed the beginning, we're going to be talking quite a bit about zero-party data, and I'd love to get your thoughts put into the chat. Do you know what zero-party data is? Does anyone have any questions or know about zero-party data? We'll give everybody a minute to add a question to the chat, and I'd love to know if you know what zero-party data actually is. And if nobody responds, then we'll know that this is a really important topic and we ought to go over it. I'm seeing some folks who have their screens on, like starting to type. So we've got some honest people on here saying not quite sure yet. Okay, cool, great. This is great. You know, I really appreciate George, Bernie, Craig, you guys, like, that's great. You came to a place to learn about it, and that is awesome. We're all in this together and learning. Kim, you are definitely right on track, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Inez, thank you so much. I'm excited to see you're eager to learn, and it's brand new, so it's really smart of you guys to start your morning this way and be learning with us. So let's get into it. What is zero-party data? Well, zero-party data is data that a consumer intentionally and proactively shares with a brand. And it's really important, the intention and the proactivity. There's a lot of ways to actually collect it. And this concept was developed by Forrester. They said this is different than first-party data. So first-party data might be data that a brand has that it is doing a coupon, and you have to enter your information to get the coupon, and it's given directly to the brand in exchange for the coupon. And it's sort of, the person thinks like, well, I'm just getting that coupon, and that's all that's going to happen with that data. That is intentionally provided, but it's not necessarily known that that is going to be used for other purposes. So zero-party data says it's intentionally and proactively. In zero-party data, the consumer proactively says, I want the brand to have my data. I don't just want the coupon. I want them to have my data. I want them to know who I am. And Forrester's not the only one. They really coined the term. They started with it. But it's really the talk of the town right now. McKinsey is talking about how brands need to reduce their reliance on third-party data and invest in acquiring zero-party data. Forbes is saying that zero-party data may be the way forward for personalized marketing. And all of you who don't know a ton about it, congratulations, because you guys are super smart. You're getting in on this early, and will have an advantage over your competitors. Ad Age has some great ideas about how to capture zero-party data with holiday promotions, as everyone's really thinking about that season right now. And even Salesforce is big on moving toward zero-party data on the B2B side and their cloud applications. So zero-party data is an approach that incredibly well-respected and advanced organizations are taking to address the fundamental decision that brands have to make about how they move forward at this crossroads. So DISQO believes in zero-party data completely. We actually have an entire platform. Our entire platform is built off of zero-party data. 100% of our audience has fully opted in to participate in measurement. And more importantly than them opting in is that they get value back. They get value in exchange for their data. So they know that this data is being used to help brands understand their campaigns better. And they say, oh, that's cool. And not everybody wants that. And we respect that. We're not trying to say that everybody wants their data used in the same way. Consumers deserve choice and they deserve consent in how their data is used. It's important for brands who want to have a consumer-first approach to their data to respect that consent. And zero-party data ensures that they're making a choice to actually respect consumers' consent because they have full opt-in and they're getting value. In addition, zero-party data allows you some new data sets, new types of data that are going to deliver some exciting results. So you can get opinion data, and we collect opinion data. We run a gazillion surveys, and we can get all sorts of opinions from brand tracking, share of voice, brand preference, campaign lift, et cetera, as well as passive behavioral measurement. That means that when people opt in to the zero-party platform, they're opting in to have all of their digital behaviors part of the platform. So the websites they visit, the search, the sales, all of that data can be used for insights. That opens up wildly new opportunities for brands to learn new things that they couldn't do even with the old identifiers like cookies and mobile IDs. Now, people have been collecting opt-in data since like the 1920s, right? People walk around with clipboards back then. But what happened in that era, and what's still happening with some of the first-party data collection strategies, is that the data gets collected and it's put in a silo. It's not proactive, it's a one-time collection. How does it link to other things? How does it link to other website visitation, competitive insights? You just don't have that full picture. So with zero-party data, it's quite different. We have an entire audience of people who fully opted in to share their opinions and to share all of their digital behaviors, which can then be used to do market research on brands and strategy, ad measurement. And we even have a number of brands who are building their own solutions for things we've never even thought of off of this platform to understand consumers in a new way that are fully opted in, fully transparently engaged with providing insights. So with this, it's great. I mean, consumers, they get consent, they get to participate, we get more data, but it provides some interesting value to brands that other approaches are not going to deliver. One, the quality of the data is really high. Because the data is coming from a single source audience, and because that audience is getting value for their data, you don't have to deal with the fraud issues that you deal with when you're just running, impressions on the internet, right? There's not bots in it because we're actually giving value to our audience members who are participating in this zero-party platform. We're not going to be giving value. We're not giving gift cards and things to bots. They're real people and they're vetted as real people. So all of the decision-making and insights is actually off of real people. So a high click rate from a bot or a high conversion rate that doesn't actually convert because it was fraudulent, you don't have to deal with that stuff. So optimization is based on truth. This method of using zero-party data also levels the playing field. Because the data is collected on a platform, it's all collected the same way, which means not any one company can grade their own homework. Nobody can white label their brand, our brand on top of their data sets, right? You don't have company A saying this is how your campaign performed and company B saying this is how your campaign performed. And you all know that no one gives you a report that says that their company didn't perform well. It is a neutral approach that allows us to see everything. I said earlier that 62% of consumers are visiting multiple platforms every month. Well, if every platform's got a different approach, it's really challenging to understand the consumer view and what's actually working on an apples to apples basis. Here you've got a level playing field because the consumers are allowing all of it. The data is coming not from companies in our ecosystem, but data is coming directly from people. And finally, it allows brands to take an ethical measurement position. If you go to do research at any major research university in the country, there are human research subject ethics rules that you have to abide by. People have to know that they're participating in research. If we think about ad measurement and we think about campaign optimization, how many of the people that are being used in those research studies actually know that they're participating in that? Our industry would probably not hold up to that level of scrutiny. But here, you know that you're taking an ethical position because consumers have opted in to participate and can take a leadership position. So many brands today are talking about purpose, and they're talking about how that aligns to their business practices, whether it's fair trade coffee or whether it's the supply chain that they're using. In the same way, using zero-party data allows brands who care about sustainability to have that same approach in their measurement. So it's a really solid approach, but not only is it going to give you better quality data and be better aligned to business, it works, right? You get more out of it. And ultimately, in the end, zero-party data has to work. And there's three key things that it does for brands that you won't be able to do without it. One, full funnel campaign impact. You can see everywhere from brand awareness to brand preference to search visitation, all the way down to sales in a single system. This allows you to really identify the places in that system where you are having drop off and optimize to close any leaks in your funnel. Two, no blind spots. With zero-party data, with our platform, we see everything, all of the digital activity. So if you're running in a particular location and you can't cookie, that's not a problem. You don't need cookies because the data is coming from consumers. We don't need cookies, no blind spots. And finally, it's future-proof. Because this comes from consumers, it doesn't matter what particular technological piece is allowed or not allowed. Consumers are just providing it. And so that means that that data is always available. So it gives you way more touch points in the consumer journey than you even had back in the day with just cookies or mobile IDs. You can understand consumer sentiments, their attitudes toward a brand. You can understand favorability, ask them questions, find out why they shopped. You can even ask questions about why they shopped at your competition. You can say, I want to find everybody in the audience that visits my competitor's site, and I want to find out why. What do they like about it? What's making them go there? You can understand the entirety of a consumer's opinion, their preferences, and whether they intend to actually buy from you. So using actual survey data to collect that. But then you also can see whether they actually go to your site and you don't have drop off from lost identifiers, whether they search for your brand by name, they search for your category, your competition, whether they're hanging out on your competition sites, whether they're checking out reviews, how often reviews are influential in the end purchase, and how they're actually buying the product. What's really interesting that we see increasingly is that there's oftentimes a gap between what people say they're going to do, I'm going to buy your product, and then what they end up doing. And all those places, the competitor site visitation, all that competitive activity can derail people from what they intended to do after seeing your ads to what they actually do. We call that the say-do gap. And having that holistic view of a consumer with zero-party data allows you to identify those areas so that you are not losing. And again, you're really closing the leaky bucket in both driving revenue, but also share of voice and share of market. Now, you can get detailed data because, again, consumers are sharing everything that you can't get with cookies and mobile IDs. For example, search across all of the major search engines, reviews, understanding, how people are engaging with your product and what they're looking up, and e-commerce. You can understand if they're buying your product on Amazon, are they buying your product on Walmart, on Best Buy, and Kroger? Understanding where else those products are being sold and whether the campaign that you ran on, Yahoo is actually driving sales on Target. That total view of campaign impact increases the amount of impact that marketers are seeing from their campaigns, as well as their impacts the ability for them to optimize by as much as 30 times from what we are seeing from traditional approaches that are not using a zero-party audience platform. And the quality of the measurement itself gets better. Again, because you have voluntary information about what people are doing and what they're interested in, you have a lot deeper view into the people themselves. For example, in traditional ad measurement, if you're going to do a brand lift study, you have a test and a control. And you might want to say, okay, let's match them. So, okay, females, yeah, we're going to match that pretty closely, the test and control as best as we can. It's nothing's perfect, but yep. Okay, let's match by age, let's match by income. Great, let's run the study. Well, we know that, age, gender, income is fine start, but Mick Jagger and Donald Trump are the same age, gender, and income, but they would probably have very different buying interests. One's going to buy like red ties and one's going to buy paisley scarves, right? And if you're trying to sell either of those things, knowing that these people have a prior interest in the product would be really important. So age, gender, income, which is used in most research, is really okay. With zero-party data, you get so much more. You get the age, gender, income, but let's say you were trying to sell something to pet owners, pet food, for example. You could see, are these people even dog owners? Can we match test and control on that? Can we match the exposed and the control on whether they're the primary purchaser? Let's match them on whether they buy it frequently or infrequently. They buy it once a month. What kind do they buy? We call this prior brand propensity, so that your exposed and control groups, as you go and do measurement and do lift, are truly the same. Now, they're not 100% perfect. And we know that nothing is going to be as perfect as an RCT. But when you don't have a random and controlled trial and you need to match test and control, being able to do so using their prior brand propensity gives you the ability to deliver far more accurate measurement, and thus your optimization becomes better, and thus your sales become better, and your share of market becomes better. It's kind of nerdy to be diving into, the exposed and control group methodologies, but it's just another way that zero-party data and really having that consumer view ultimately drives more revenue and market share for your company, because even your optimization within campaigns is better. And we talked about the use for ad measurement, but as I said, that zero-party data can also be used for consumer insights, understanding what's trendy, what's hot, what's important, what they value. It's great for use in competitive intelligence. Most of the time, your competitors are not going to allow you to cookie their sites. But with zero-party data, you can go in and we can look at the platform and find visitors to those sites and survey them or look at their downstream behaviors. And also, it's great for audience segmentation, understanding your loyal customers, understanding the different personas of your customers, understanding your occasionals and how you want to move them with your ad campaigns as well. So to sum it up, really zero-party data is about giving people value and getting full funnel insights in return. When you start with people, you start by giving them choice and giving them respect. They give you a whole lot more that drives your market share. And we now can take questions in the chat. And if you have any questions that you want to ask directly outside of that, you can also reach me at hello@disqo.com. And I'm checking the chat here. I know it took a second last time. Oh, you can also unmute yourself and ask live too. Thanks, George. We're excited about the opportunity that zero-party data provides to really grow brands. I'm also happy to send over any of the studies I mentioned. What is the size of the zero-party data at DISQO? Can it be used at scale? So Bernie's asking, how big is it? What can we do? So typically, we have more people in a brand lift study using the DISQO panel and using zero-party data than are actually in a traditional brand lift study. So the sample sizes are actually bigger for things like brand lift studies, sales lift studies, et cetera, because we have more people who have directly opted in with DISQO. Overall, there's about 1.375 million active users at any given time. There's about 20 million who are lifetime members in the audience. So it is sizable and it gives you a lot of granularity. It will never be the entirety of the US because some people are not interested, and we respect that. And really look to deliver these insights off of the people who are interested in participating. But oftentimes it's actually larger than the sample sizes you're using today. Can zero-party data be, Ian's asking, can it be integrated into programmatic performance media campaigns? Hi, Ian, thanks for the question. It can. We actually have some interesting partnerships that work with programmatic, segmentation, and targeting. Also, you can use it for optimizing, and in fact, we have tons and tons of clients who are using it for optimizing their programmatic campaigns right now, understanding lift, understanding competitive impact, sales impact. They're working with their DSPs and running their campaigns, and then DISQO can measure it and compare it, for example, to a DSP campaign versus a campaign directly with a social platform, and look at optimizations across. That's actually really common. We also have people who are using it alongside their TV campaigns. A lot of direct-to-consumer brands are increasingly adding TV to the mix. And so because, again, we have this direct relationship with consumers, we actually are able to understand their TV viewing habits as well and incorporate TV and digital optimization for brands that are doing that. Great. Thanks, Ian. There are no dumb questions, John. So John is asking a great question. How do you target people with ads without third-party cookies? Well, we're actually not doing the targeting. What we are doing is collecting the data, and then we are doing we have the data on our platform, And we can do measurements, we can do questions. The targeting would actually be done in your existing targeting system. If it's being done in your DSP, we have some partnerships that allow the zero-party data to be linked to those things, but the targeting is actually done in the same systems that you're using today to do that targeting. It's just making sure that that data is actually based on the total view of that person, or say you want to find people that are interested in your competition and are heavy users of your competition. You can do that by linking them up in that way. So yeah, we're not an ad server. We don't sell ad space. We're not a publisher. We're not a DSP. We don't do any of those things. We really focus on the platform and ensuring the high quality data collection, and then delivering ad measurement solutions, as well as consumer insights and market research solutions. It can be hooked into other systems then to do other use cases like ad targeting or ad sales or other things like that. Is zero-party data compatible with DV360? If yes, how can it be integrated? Thanks, Waleed. Great question. Zero-party data is compatible with anything, right? It's the data, it sits on our platform. And there are opportunities to measure DV360 right now. So we have a lot of clients who measure it very easily today. And happy to talk with you about that and what we can do. But we've got tons of clients that are actually doing that today. Great questions, everybody. And I'm really appreciative of everybody taking this as a learning opportunity, and I'm hoping to learn from you too what would be helpful in bringing this concept to market and helping people understand that they don't have to kind of give up. They can actually get really robust insights in a way that's respecting consumers. Okay, I think that's it for questions. If there's anything else, feel free to reach out, hello@disco.com. I am happy to send over more information. Got a bunch of research studies, case studies that can send over as well to help you get to know more.